Hi ladies, Dionysia here, taking some time out with you today to share some thoughts that I've been having about where we are in space and time. You got to see that beautiful clip of the sea at the beginning of this video, the Adriatic Sea, and I've been walking next to the sea every day, contemplating Venus and being in this Venus retrograde. You know, the sea is home base, it's birthplace for Venus, right? Aphrodite was foam-born, she sprung from the sea. And so when we're in these time periods where Venus is highlighted, being at the sea can be really nourishing for us, and it can help us to remember to focus on the waters in our body, the waters of the womb space. Those are the waters we all emerge from, and the water that flows through our veins like the rivers flow through the earth. And as I've been contemplating those things and thinking about what I'd like to share with you, I started thinking about magic. So many of you probably don't know, but I have been on the path of magic since I was really quite young. I first met witchcraft and Wicca in an odd kind of way. I was in college in Montgomery, Alabama, so I grew up in the Deep South. And I was in a public speaking class, which I loved. I loved doing that. And my assignment was to create a speech about something that I knew nothing about. And I had no idea what I was going to create this speech on. But my dorm mate was over one Friday night doing my hair for us to go out. And she said, well, what if you did your speech on Wicca? And I said, Wicca? What's that? So she gave me a little spiel about it, and I went to the library because that was before internet, when we still went and did all of our research in the library, and found a bunch of books on Wicca and witchcraft, and that set me on the path. I did do a speech about Wicca and witchcraft, A+, nailed it, but it actually also got me interested in that path and learning more about it. Well, fast forward about 3 years later, I had already truly divorced myself from the Christian church. I had had enough of everything that Southern Baptism had to offer, and was already, exploring other avenues of spirituality. And many of you who've been listening to me have heard me say that my path is one that just kept appearing before me. And so I kept having, various teachers and spiritual teachers appear on the path and give me direction and give me, direction. And so that led me to meeting a woman while I had heard that there were witches in the Colorado mountains. And I was out there when I graduated from college, ready to meet the witches. And I rolled up hitchhiking. Yes, I was very wild back then. Still wild, just in a different way. And I was looking for some friends of mine that I was going to be meeting up with up in this lodge in the mountains that was like a public lodge with a bar and restaurant. And I didn't know where they were, so I just rolled my sleeping bag out onto the ground, ready to cozy in for the night. And a guy came up and asked me, hey, who are you? What are you doing here? And I told him, and he was like, oh, I know them. I'll take you up to where they are. So he drives me up the mountain. It's all, summer night air and sagebrush and starry skies in the mountains of Colorado. And we get up to where we're going, and there's a big group of people around a bonfire at the top of a hill. It turns out that my friends are there that I was looking for, and all of them are there gathered to watch the Perseid meteor shower. So here I am, freshly arrived in Colorado, connected with my dear soul sister from college, under the big, big starry sky of the Colorado mountains with the Perseids streaming past around the bonfire. And she said, and I tell her I've been looking for the witches, and she says, well, come and let me introduce you to my friend. And she introduces me to her friend, and she says she's been looking for the witches in the mountains. And her friend reaches across the fire and hands me her hand and says, welcome, you've just met your first one. Shortly after that, she loaned me her copy of Spiral Dance, and I was on my way. So I started practicing as a solitary. Actually, I started practicing with her and another woman, so there were 3 of us. And then I went on to be a solitary, which for quite a long time, that developed into being part of covens. And, you know, over time, while I would still say I'm very deeply connected to witchcraft and what that is and how that moves in me, I got very, very interested in the exploration of the goddesses and priestess as something different than witch, and how they're interrelated and how they're connected. And that's another conversation for another time. But all of that is to say that magic has been a part of my life for a really long time. And I would actually argue that it predates that. Like, I can vividly remember being, 6 years old, sitting in the dirt, really, at our, swing set with my cousins, making mud pies. And I would argue that in my, 6-year-old little Southern girl self, that was a version of magic potion making already, because technically I was baking cakes, but I was putting a little bit of this herb in there and a little bit of that root in there. And I'm imagining that I'm not alone here, that some of you can probably relate to some earth magic witching as children in our playful ways. So anyways, as I've been contemplating magic and thinking about its, how it came to be in my life in this lifetime, I've been thinking about the magical times that we're in right now and the magics that we can be making in the times that we're in right now. I think that there's a lot of fear happening in our world and a lot of distress happening in our world, and for good reasons. But I also think that part of how we resist that is to stay out of fear and not let our minds be controlled by fear, and instead stay in our hearts and in our bodies and in the love and the goodness that's there. And that in itself is a powerful, powerful form of magic. And then I think that we can do things from that space that are like making magic. For me, I didn't map astrological movements far enough in advance, because I'm not trained in that way, to know that I was going to be set up by the sea during this particular Venus retrograde and all that it means. But I've been very, very delighted that that is how it all worked out. And I know that some part of me knew to bring myself here, because I get very, very deeply nourished by the sea. I have a lot of my astrological makeup is actually earth and fire, but it's in signs that are ruled by water signs. So I have a very, very sensitive watery elements about me too. And when I need to rest and restore, I want to be at the sea. So what does that mean for you? Why am I talking to you about that? Well, I've been thinking a lot about, Venus and what are we doing during this retrograde. I heard a couple of really brilliant things recently that are tied into this. I heard a scientist actually talking about physics and explaining how astrology works and the movement of planets work according to physics. Like, why does it affect us? And I cannot speak about it in the very technical terms that he was using, but in a nutshell, what he was saying is that in the same way that we know that the moon moves the tides, think about, and the moon is the smallest of those bodies that are outside of our planet. Think about how the big bodies, Mars, Venus, Mercury, Jupiter the biggest, Saturn, Pluto, when they move, they affect the Earth literally in the same way the moon does. He says that they make a wave of energy that moves like a wave through the oceans, and that those waves of energy are the same as our brain waves. So when, for example, Venus makes a big movement around the Earth, or comes into a, conjunction or a trine or an astrological configuration with the Earth, then she moves a wave of energy through the oceans that affect us, because it's the same as one of our brain waves. That's a very, very simple way of explaining what he was saying. He was brilliant at it. But I thought, oh, that explains so much. So he said, so yes, when Mars makes his movement and that wave moves through the planet, then definitely we might see an uptick in anger and warlike energy and violence. So the same is true with Venus. When she makes her movement and that wave literally moves through the planet and affects our brain waves, then what we're talking about is the energies of Venus. Love, beauty, sensuality, what we value. Our finances is a part of that value. How we love ourselves with money, how we love our bodies. So Venus has a very distinctive energy, right? And I recently heard an astrologer talking about retrogrades, and that, we all tend to talk about what happens when Mercury goes retrograde, because it happens 3 or 4 times a year, every year. And a lot of us feel its effects. We know that it affects communications, it affects technology, it affects all the gadgets and things and waves that we use to make communication. And it's not a great time to sign contracts or start launch new ventures unless you've already been working on them up to that point. So there's a lot to be said about Mercury retrograde, and a lot of us know that because we experience it. The same is true about Venus retrograde, except that Venus retrograde has a different energetic than a Mercury retrograde does, which also has a different energetic than a Mars retrograde does. And the Venus retrograde energy is about reflecting on, reviewing, going back over all of the things that the Venus energy rules. Our beauty, our sense of love, what we value, how we love ourselves, beauty in our environment, our need for beauty, our need for sensuality, for sensual experiences, for sexuality. So this is a time that we could be feeling a lot of those things. We could be, reviewing our relationships. We could be reviewing where we are with our bodies, where we are about sex and sexuality and sensuality. We could be reviewing, our heartbreaks, our losses. And all of that is about to get the heat turned up underneath it with this full moon lunar eclipse that is happening on Friday, if you're in the US, Friday morning, Thursday night, Friday morning. So the 13th or the 14th. That energetic, and we tend to feel those things before and after, right? Can be really turning up the heat under all of this retrograde energy. It's a different energetic, but it's interrelated because it's related to Virgo. And Virgo is about our bodies. It's about our health. So we might be reviewing things about our bodies that are to do with our health or our fitness goals or our weight loss goals or, our skincare routines, like all kinds of things that we could be feeling, and all of that is happening inside of Pisces. So back to the waters, back to the sea, right, is that Pisces energy that can be very sort of floaty and nebulous, but it's also, it's the last sign of the zodiac, which means it's about endings. And you could be experiencing, and the heat might be turned up underneath, things that are ending in your life. It could be habits that are ending or routines that are ending. It could be jobs. It could be sources of money. It could be relationships. It could be health issues. Those could be ending too. Or it might even be certain ways that you've thought about your body or thought about your sexuality or your relationships, right? So there's a lot happening in these next few days around how you view yourself, how you're relating to your femininity, really. Venus, there she is, she's the embodiment of that and all of the things related to your femininity. So these are all things that are happening. And, the sun, the way it's aspecting is shining light into the shadow. It's shining light into the unconscious, our own personal unconscious and the collective unconscious, which really explains a lot of what we're seeing in the world, right? It's just the light is being shined into the shadow. Nothing can hide. It's all coming out for everybody to see. So while we're moving through these energies, I just think it really helps us as magical women to know where we are and to stay in awareness about where we are. What are the energies that we're inside of? What are the energies that we're moving in, and how are we moving them? Are we moving? Are you moving your body? I say that, times like these require furious dancing, lots of moving. Move that energy. Don't let it stagnate. Don't let it get still in there. We can sink you, So I just was thinking about those things a lot in the past few days and wanted to really share that with you and encourage you to really do some deep self-care for sure. Take that hot bath. Take an extra hour off of doing anything and give yourself some being time. Go for the spa if you can do that. Have that massage, but also journal or meditate. Up level your meditation practice for the next few days and really be with yourself and allow what might be bubbling to the surface for you to let go. This could be a final ending of things that you might be really done with. And sure, that could be painful. It could be really requiring that you do some deep soul searching around some things, but it could also be easy. It could just be you look at it and you go, yeah, actually, I'm done with that. That's complete. So that's my offering to you this week, is that encouragement to go and really take some deep self-love time over these next few days, over this weekend, and contemplate, what is Venus wanting to move through you right now? What is she saying to you? What is her message for you? What are you in review of? What are you reflecting on in terms of your heart, your sexuality, your sensuality, your body, your love relationships, your value system, what you value, your money, for sure. And just be with that and see, because there's a real, the magic that you can consciously make with this energy is that you can say to yourself, okay, I see that, I'm reviewing that, and I'm actually done with that. I'm complete with that lesson, that experience, that habit, that pattern. I'm done. And then take steps to make sure that it is done. Make whatever completion you need to make. Or if you're seeing there, that's ending and I have not been ready for that, then it's time to really get with yourself around it and get ready, because the endings are happening. A lot of endings are happening right now. The good news about that is that every ending is, also a next beginning. So I hope there's something here for you. I hope you found value here. If you did, please take a moment and go click that subscribe button. It helps me to continue to bring content to you. It helps the algorithm spread the word. It's a simple way, a quick way that you can help other women get in touch with feminine wisdom teachings and help the feminine that's rising and how we're restoring the feminine on our planet right now. And I will wish you, from my heart to yours, a beautiful, beautiful Venus time and an easeful passage through this eclipse season. And as always, I'm bringing you content every week to be of support in that. And there's a lot that you can find in support on my website if you feel drawn to do that. All of that information is in the caption. And I'll see you next week on the other side. Big love to you, beauties. Wishing you loads of magic making. Blessed be.